Hello, and welcome to the Thinking Elixir podcast, where we cover the news of the community and learn from each other. My name is Mark Erickson.
And I'm David Bernheisel.
Let's jump into the news. First up, the Elixir Stream Week is currently underway at the time of this recording. There's already been one down, and there's another one to go today, but it hasn't happened yet. The first one was the video with José Valim on what's new in Elixir 1.18. Thankfully, if you missed it, you can still catch the presentation. There's a link to it on YouTube. We've got a link in the show notes where you can find that. And there's also a link to the Elixir forum discussion where the whole Stream Week is laid out, and that's where I found the link to José's is in there and I presume as more videos are completed, we'll find links to them in that one thread. So that's really handy. Anyway, I just want to touch a little bit on how that presentation went. In José's presentation on Elixir 1.18, he talked about the type system updates, language server updates, JSON support being moved in officially, XUnit improvements, and he touched on mix format with the -- migrate feature. So the big question was, this was all done streaming with Elixir and WebRTC. Software Mansion, the group that's really hosting it, putting this event on, was really promoting, that this is all with Elixir WebRTC, which is really cool, honestly. That is a really cool thing to say, hey, we can do this and check out how it works. Mm-hmm. And I felt like, hey, come help us load test and we'll make it interesting for you at the same time. That's
yeah, really. This is a hard problem, by the way. So
absolutely. Yes.
Not easy.
Yes. And so this was the first video of the week. So it did not go off without a hitch. There were a few issues. Namely, there were some video flickers, and it would be flickering between changing orientations or something like that. But that didn't impact your ability to actually enjoy the stream. Mm. Then there was another separate part where the audio began to crackle real bad. Mm. And then we find out later, that's not actually due to Elixir WebRTC. That was an issue that José has had when he would live stream on Twitch, and it had to do with his local audio setup. So he had to restart his stream, and then it was all good with the audio after that.
Yeah, that's the problem with these things that are peer-to-peer as well, and layers upon layers of tech that has to happen. Where really is the problem here?
Exactly. Yeah, so we don't want to, attribute that issue to the stream. That was not related to it. So a few other things we wanted to highlight from the stream, because honestly, the biggest thing I think most people were interested in was the type system updates. Some of his main points that he wanted to hit was that typing support for tuples, lists, and functions is added. And this is with all the new set type theoretic type system that's being added, right? So what's really cool is checking out the video. He's showing the error messages. Here's a sample code, and then here's the error message that we're now able to detect because previously we couldn't before. So an example was you're pattern matching on a 2-item tuple, and then in the code, in the function after that, saying enum, and then you're getting into a position that's beyond it would have been the third position. Mm-hmm. And the compiler is able to detect that. And that's really cool.
Yeah, good old zero-based indexing there too. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so you need to check it out if you're interested in this, because the examples and the error messages are really, you could tell José was most pleased with and proud of how the error messages were coming out, and just how we're able to take this information and present it to you. Mm-hmm. So just to cover a couple of the other ones. So it's the warning on the tuple shape mismatches. That's the one I just mentioned. Type inference of patterns, type checking of local and remote function calls, invalid branch detection in case with and conned.
This is incredible, man. He said it earlier that they were trying to tackle the hard problems first.
Yeah.
These are the hard problems. Pattern matching, and then all the cases, which is a lot of pattern matching too, but yeah, getting the whole infrastructure set up for local and remote function calls. Yeah.
One other thing I wanted to share, that he shared this tip about the language server updates. One of the things that, you just don't necessarily think about, in the console, you might run mix compile, and at the same time, the language server might be running mix compile behind the scenes, and you don't actually know when that's happening, and that could cause race conditions. And so one of the things they have is a mix compile has an OS lock to prevent that kind of race condition. So like that's the example of the language server having a deeper integration with the compiler and the language itself to be able to say, hey, we're not going to run multiple simultaneous compiles of the same project.
Yeah, nice. I wonder if that differs between mixed environments too, like dev and test.
Good question. Yeah.
I've run into like odd little things like that. Yeah. For some reason, all my modules are being redefined or something. I'm like, no, they're not. Like, no. There's some other compile process. It's like thinks it's done, but it's redefining. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's lots more in the video. It was like an hour long. There are chapter markers in the video as well, so you can kind of jump around and skip some of the video issues that they had and when they had to restart the stream and stuff. Anyway, it's totally worth checking out, especially if you're interested in seeing what's going on with the type system updates.
Very cool. All right, well, shifting gears a little bit, there's a project out there called Igniter, which is a mixed task-based way of like composing generators. I think that's the idea. I think I put that right. But it's starting to gain some additional capabilities that aren't about like, hey, I want this new library, do some stuff to like integrate my library. Now you can start using Igniter as a tool for refactoring. So, for example, I would normally expect this to be like integrated with your editor because there is like code actions and there is like a code action called refactor, which is just a fancy way of saying rename or pull out, this function into a named function. But those are LSPs, and that's like integrated with your editor. And everybody's different, and not everybody has those, like those fancy integrations or whatever, right? And so Igniter is presenting itself as a good tool for this kind of thing. So additional to, the original goal of being like composing generators, you can now kind of like do some of these refactoring things. So in the upcoming Elixir 1.18, you mentioned it's like there's mixed format -- migrate, which can do a similar thing here. And in 1.18, they're deprecating the unless keyword, right?
Yeah.
And so mixed format -- migrate, when you're on Elixir 1.18, will flip those for you and go through your code through the AST, I presume, and like change it. Well, what if you want to do that before you get on 1.18, Elixir 1.18? Well, that's where Igniter can come in and kind of do the same thing. You would run mix-igniter.refactor. unless to if not before you upgrade to Elixir 1.18. So like if you wanted to get that quick PR out to where it's not so noisy when you do the real, upgrade, then like you can throw Igniter in there real quick. You don't even have to like commit it, like get that mutation, like that, what do they call that? A code mod. It's basically a big code mod, right? Go get that code mod ran, revert all of your things of adding Igniter or keep it in there, and then like commit that, and then you're good to go. That's pretty cool. So that's one deal. There's another refactoring one called like rename function. So you'd run mix-igniter.refactor.rename function and then pass in the fully qualified function name, like, from the module on, and you'd rename it from and to. That's also pretty nice. Anyway, Igniter is shaping up to be a very good fleshed out library that is going to be, I think, getting a good position in the developer tooling ecosystem for Elixir and Phoenix, which is pretty nice. Of course, this is out of the Ash framework, efforts, but it's not exactly about Ash. You don't need Ash. It's just a tool that that they appreciated for Ash as well. And speculation, who knows? Who knows where this part is going to go? But they're also exploring the idea. It could fall flat. Maybe they say no, but they're exploring the idea of incorporating a JavaScript AST modifier as well. So they'll have to like integrate with some other tooling, and the one they're considering right now is OXC. Never heard of it, but it's essentially the same kind of idea where you consume JavaScript, you have an AST, you crawl that, you crawl that tree, you do your modifications, and then you kind of you're done. A lot of the same kinds of things that Elixir is doing on your behalf as well. And Igniter, I believe, is using Sorcerer as a hex package, which does a lot of the same stuff. It's going through the AST smartly and giving you hooks to modify the source. Anyway, so that's Igniter for you in a nutshell. It is shaping up very nicely. There's some new refactor mix tasks in there, so it's not even about like composing new libraries together or something like that. Now it's just, you can just use it on your own stuff, and it's pretty darn interesting. I'm excited for the future here.
Yeah, it looked really good. And next up, 2 new Elixir-related papers at the 28th Brazilian Symposium on Programming Languages were being shared in the status of this. One of them, the one about HAWK, won Best Paper Award. So HAWK is spelled HOC. It stands for Higher Order GPU Kernels in Elixir. Essentially, it's like a DSL for writing low-level GPU kernels, but in Elixir. And then it was, there's a contribution, this is over at the Elixir forum. There's Code of Kai wrote up some good questions and answers from his notes about what this really means, this announcement. So here's just a few of the points that they pulled out. So what is HAWK? HAWK is an extension of Elixir designed for GPU programming, simplifying the use of GPUs for high-performance tasks like machine learning. So why is HAWK useful for Elixir developers? HAWK allows Elixir developers to leverage GPUs without needing to learn low-level languages like CUDA, while maintaining Elixir's concurrency and distribution features. And the real question is like, what are higher order kernels? Because that's like part of the whole name of what a HAWK is. Like, what does that mean, a higher order kernel? So higher order kernels allow passing functions as arguments to GPU kernels, enabling dynamic configurations and flexible code reuse. I don't know if that just never was possible before, but it's the idea of, hey, here's a function that I'm passing as a parameter, but it's going to the GPU and going to be executed there. I mean, that's like what functional languages are all about, right? Being able to pass functions as arguments, because that's where all the neat stuff of, monads and everything with functional programming, like that's the core of it, to be able to pass around a function as a first order language feature. So yeah, I don't know. That sounds pretty interesting.
I'm still stuck on higher order kernels here.
Exactly.
Like kernels. There's one kernel, right? How is there a higher order one? There must be a lower order one. Like, I don't know.
There's so many kernels. Yes.
All right, moving on. A good friend of the show, Dave Lucia, shared that his PR was merged into the DNS cluster library. The DNS cluster library, I believe, ships with Phoenix nowadays, but it's a simple way to find your other Erlang nodes in your same DNS cluster. It's just a bit of a configuration mostly to support the usual option that most distributed clusters will use, which is finding each other through a DNS server that is in their infrastructure somehow. So, for example, on Fly, they have their own little DNS server that queries the internal, network things, and you can find your other nodes based on that. So it makes it really easy. It's basically plug and play, right? That's kind of the idea. That's as close as plug and play as we can get. An issue with it, however, is that it assumed that it would be the same instance of your app, across that DNS cluster. What if you needed to cluster with another Elixir app that needs to talk to your Elixir app that's not the same code,
Yeah.
It's just another, I don't know, I'll call it microservice or something. It's just another microservice or another Elixir app. So that's what Dave Lucia set out to solve there. So the PR extended, it's merged now, but the PR extended the API to allow a list of DNS queries. Before you just pass in a string. Now you can pass in a list. And on top of that, that list of queries can be separated into a base name and the query for it. So it just enables some flexibility. So if the name of the node is a little bit different than how it was actually networked, to have the network name of it. That's an incredible reason. Seems obvious in hindsight, but yeah, exactly. It's just one of the cool things about Elixir and clustering. You can cluster it all in all kinds of different ways. Now you can use DNS cluster to send messages from two different Elixir apps gen servers, right? Or receive pub sub notifications from these other apps. Very cool and surprisingly small PR, which is pretty nice to see. I'm reminded of what was it? It was a José Valim PR about NX and how to get the GPU code to go to another node that didn't have it. And he pointed out this PR. It was just like, what was it, like 100 lines or something to get this to just work. And anyway, I feel like we're feeling that effect here in the DNS query library as well. It's just like, it's insane the amount of value that OTP just gives you out of the box. Quick aside too, I had another thing where it's the same idea where there's a typical setup where you have a web node and a worker node.
Oh yeah.
And your worker node might have more things installed on like the container, right?
Right.
And so in my case, it was Chromium to render PDFs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And so there was a specific scenario where I needed the web request to immediately return a PDF that's rendered off of, some stuff. And I didn't want Chromium installed on my web node.
I understand why. Yeah.
Right. Of course. Want it real slim with the superpowers of OTP and then also the superpowers of Open Pro. Open Pro has this feature called a relay, which is basically Flame.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But it's not about elasticity at this point. It's more like inlining there. So you have your code inlined, but it's inserting a job and then it processes it immediately, as much as it still follows the whole queue, rules. But in my case, it should be as immediate as it can be. But it does it inline on the worker node and then passes back a file descriptor on the node with the PDF, binary over there on the worker node. And it streams it back to the con on the web node. So the user gets their PDF.
You don't even have to like deal with it like being copied over to the web server and temp files and none of that.
No file.copies, like nothing. Just like I was just I don't know. I was just amazed. I didn't even think about it and it just worked. And I was like, this is so great. Like, this is so great. I would just hate the whole rigmarole of like, I gotta upload this one to S3 and like go send a message to this other thing to go download it, and then like, anyway, it's just dumb. So very happy about OTP and the ease of clustering and how nodes can just talk to each other, even streaming files, across nodes. It was pretty amazing. Okay, sorry. So that was a long example, but this PR with DNS cluster is pretty legit. Go get you some.
And next up, Toucan is an Elixir plotting library that's actually built on top of VegaLite. So Toucan version 0.4.0 was recently released. So we haven't talked about Toucan in a while. But this release was nice because it has various enhancements like range bars, candlesticks, zooming and panning support for all plot types. So it's just, it's getting better. And so if you're not familiar with Toucan, it just describes itself as designed to simplify the creation of interactive and visually stunning plots. Underneath it all, VegaLite is used as the library that implements a lot of this. And VegaLite actually supports the ability to have live updates, meaning, it's a live view. I have data that gets changed and maybe pushed down, and then it'll automatically update in my chart. But Toucan does not support that just yet. So on Twitter, the maintainer shared, and we got a link to his little discussion. The quote is, "I will add support for this in the next release, as well as a tutorial on how to integrate it with live view." That's like, I think that point at which people say, now I can really use this in maybe a user-facing way. It's obviously like this would be great for admin dashboards, things behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Love seeing features like that.
I would use that almost immediately. As soon as it has live view support, I have a spot for it already.
Ooh, nice. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's easy to pigeonhole Vega and VegaLite or Kino kind of things. Kino uses all this stuff like, this is for live book only. I can't really use it in my app. So that's wrong. That's wrong. Yeah. Get out of that mindset. All right. Hey, last up, we got a quick library update of Error Tracker, and the version that was released was 0.4. And this latest release includes a requested feature to have the ability to sanitize and or filter out the error context before it gets logged. Pretty common feature, I think, for Sentry and Honeybadger and the other ones. So good to see that Error Tracker's gaining that ability. Pretty important for PII, even though it is within your system in this case. but if you still don't want it logged, maybe your logger is also leaking some of the information and does go to a third-party thing. It's a good update. If you're using Error Tracker, 0.4 is ready for you.
What I thought about with this one, because you mentioned the idea that, well, it's already stored in my Postgres database. It's already local anyway. But then I thought, well, what if you have other people like the staff that are looking at your error reports that are in that system? You still don't want to expose PII to them, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe they're not fully admin, right? It really depends on how you're running this and using it in your app. It's a good feature to have. Glad to see it. And when I saw this, it's like, yes, I'm like about to that point where I'm ready to like install Error Tracker in my app. it's like so close. It's like when I saw this latest update, it's like, ooh, yes, I can't wait.
Yeah. So Ecto schemas have a redact option on the field. I wonder if there's something here. I don't know. I'm conflicted. There are libraries out there that kind of like override Ecto schema and give you these extra abilities. I think Flint's one of them, right? And I'm so used to just Ecto.schema. Like, don't give me the extra stuff. Like, it needs to be Ecto. It has to be Ecto. Anything that extends Ecto needs to work with Ecto, not overwrite it and provide me this like invisible-ish kind of like layer that has these extra options that you won't find in the Ecto documentation. Anyway, sorry, rant over. But I kind of feel like it would be kind of neat if your Ecto schema had like another keyword in here that says PII true or something like that, or something else, and that informed UIs like Error Tracker that when you're rendering the schema, it's kind of like redact, but redact is specifically about loggers and how it gets serialized and all that kind of stuff. So I think there's like a UI, centric kind of thing here too, where it might tie into permissioning maybe. So like if you're a super user, then show me all the PII, but everyone else can't, I don't know. I think it's pretty neat. Curious to see how Error Tracker evolves there.
Yeah. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for listening. We hope you'll join us next time on Thinking Elixir.